Alright. 9 to noon. Secret Workday of Uber Wealthy Americans. It's not going to be like those other book videos, but I'll tell you what. I want to talk about what I really want to come out of this book. It's been a lot of work, 7 months. Writing a book, why you write it, right? So that's what I want to get through today. And I think the number one thing is there's just an insanely high educational barrier to entry into finance. And I think it's just bogus. I think there's probably like 2 super big issues right now. There's an educational barrier to entry and a fundamental barrier to entry just in the way institutions are organized. And I'll touch on that a little more at the end. But like what I really want to do with this book is abolish that educational barrier to entry into finance. Because the way I see it, there's just so many, it's just so tough, like to get into finance, stocks, assets, paper assets, investments. I remember, I'm working at Subway and I'm trying to learn about like my first investments. It probably took me 3 months just to get a baseline understanding of like, I don't know, like the first 4 chapters in the book. And then it was like another 3-4 months just to get like any grasp on really how to, manage and get into a portfolio. And the thing is, it's just so much research to do, because there's so many things to like learn really quickly, and you just need to have like a reference guide sort of for it, where it's like, you'll get it over time once you start to do it, but it's a lot of things to learn. They're all interconnected, right? So there's so many like hundreds of websites, right, where all these websites have the information, but it's like so spread out, it is scarce. It's, you gotta look through everything, you gotta connect everything yourself, then you have to formulate it, you have to systemize it, and really synthesize the information to the extent that it doesn't make sense at the beginning. And especially when you're just learning out, it's like really hard to do that, because you don't really know like what all these account types mean, how is this going to affect the way my assets perform, versus funds, personal management. It's a lot of the things like just getting a grasp on asset management. It's hard to do, and I think that's why financial advisors are just like such a huge industry, right? Is people are too lazy to do it. I think it makes sense, right? Because it's a lot of work really to get it down. So what I've tried to do is kind of abolish that educational aspect barrier, where now instead of spending months researching stuff, that's like a couple hours a day outside of work or school or whatever, you just read like one book, and you're good, right? The point is to take anyone from like 0 to 100 in personal finance and investing, so like you can be your own financial manager, asset planner, portfolio planner, right? So that you can take it to the next level. And almost, I feel like there's a lot of professionals and all they do is put people in index funds, and they're like, and people just don't know, right? They just don't know. But like, you read the first couple of chapters, I don't know, I think chapter 7, for indices, something like that. And then it's like, damn, you're good for the rest of your life. This is how you build wealth, through paper assets, right? So really taking that, because there's just so much money to be made in the space, right? It's like, there is an abundance of wealth just waiting to be accumulated, and that's why like the top 1%, right? They've got all this wealth because they all have assets, right? It's really easy to be rich because they all have assets, and whatever it is they do, right? It doesn't have to be stocks, but paper assets are one of the easiest ways to build your wealth, and that's it's freaking crazy, right? So looking at that aspect of it, and like just how much opportunity there is, that's where you really start to see the need for like telling people how to do it, right? And I've been trying to do that with the stock classes. I'm sure if you guys have seen the videos on here, the lecture series, congratulations on that for sure. I've really, like, it's really good. I like what I've done there, but you take 7 months to write a book, and it's just night and day. Like, it's just so much more information, quality. It's unmeasurably better, the book, than excuse me, those classes. Definitely a good free reference, for just getting started. They're a little boring. I don't know, I like them. I think they're good. I think they're like 6 hours. Honestly, like, sit down, read this book for 6 hours, and you'll be light miles, like light years ahead. It would be killing it. Excuse me. Sorry, target audience for the book. I think like, if I'm doing some advertising with Facebook, stuff like that, just trying to get a feel. I think digital marketing is really cool stuff, and just some experience, and that's killer. And then, now that, I'm still 17, right? So it's like, it's tough because you can't really accept credit cards, so you can't open like a Shopify store or anything like that. So Amazon and eBay, through business accounts that I use for my Nair ads, are really the only way I can sell stuff. So Amazon's really just where I focus everything with Ethernet cables, and then now with the book, and then also miscellaneous books, right? Because I've been working on selling books for, probably like, I think 6 months before I published the book, I just started to sell books on there just to get a good feel for the market, and that's helped, I think, with the way I'm distributing the book and helping get it to as many people as I can, because I think it really is like a life-changing work, and like can give people what they need to take that next step in growing real savings and retirements through asset allocation. So with that said, I think target audience is like young guys, young girls, kids starting to invest, 18, 24, young, under 25, like tech savvy, and they're ready to go and set up their future with compound asset growth. With that said, I think it has a really broad range of applicability with all investors at the same time. And I think, there's a very specific subset that are going to adapt the 9 to noon workday, and that's something you can do really at any age. And also the principles, the diversification, tax strategies, there's so much in the book. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in life if you want to grow your wealth. It's just easiest to grow your wealth when you're younger because you have more time. But just because, you're past 30, you're past 40, it's not a big deal. You can still use it to either, like, if you already have assets, to improve your asset management, maybe decrease your fees, increase your percent gains using some of the technical analysis strategies or diversification strategies to help prevent losses. Or if you don't already have assets, then you can use it to start building assets. And even if you're in a later part of life, you can increase your portfolio value through either active management, right, like you're trading and you're getting higher percent gains, or just contributing what you have and working with that and trying to grow a portfolio like anybody else. So like, really the book's for anybody interested in like, making bank, in like one of the easiest ways possible, because it's all right there in the stock market. And so that's kind of what I'm working with the whole advertising aspect of it is, because you definitely get, I feel like, the cheapest cost per click on that younger audience, which is good, but then the conversions are a little bit worse too. So, because it's just a push-pull, yin-yang, trying to find that midpoint where you've got good conversions, and reasonable advertising costs, so that you can because I really want to get the book to as many people as I can, because I think it really I just feel like everyone should have it, because it's just such a, like, it's so different, once you go from not having investment to having investments, all of a sudden it's just so much easier to grow wealth. And I feel like it's something, half of Americans have stocks. I think that's freaking insane. It's just crazy. I feel like, that number, I really want to get it up to 90%, or, something near there, because we're in like the most powerful economy in the world, but half of Americans, give or take, like, they just don't participate in the economy. They don't have equity asset growth, so they're not growing their wealth. They're whatever it is, how they're living, if everything's in cash, or if they don't have cash to invest, they're not growing paper income, paper assets. And it's like you don't even need that much money, right? Like, you take $5 out of a paycheck if you're really struggling, and that can grow. It's crazy, right? It's all about compounding growth, and that's what we go through in the book. And like, even if you don't want to change your lifestyle, you don't want to stop fringing, that's totally cool, because you can really if you go through 90 new trading or any of the other strategies in the book, like anybody can grow their wealth through stock market investments, bond investments, cryptocurrencies, everything we talk about in the book, derivatives, futures. There's so many different ways to do it. And what we do in the book, right, excuse me, is, I just home in on applicable strategies. Here's how to do it. Read this book and you'll be good. And that's kind of what the strategy and the point of it is to really let people jump straight into their financial future and achieve their goals, whatever they are. And that's sort of the impact I want to have long term with it, is just enabling people to achieve whatever their financial goals are. Because, if your mind can conceive, it can achieve it, right? So people can have anything they want if they just go for it. And that's really what it is. It's like, you buy the ticket to the gate, you open the gate, and now you're in this brand new financial world where you can really achieve those goals. And that's what the book's for. It's an investment in your future, right? So back to I think we're good there. We killed the cat there. At the beginning of the video we did talk about like a fundamental barrier to entry into finance. I feel like I'll go into that just a little bit here. I sort of see a lot of my work in the future, and just because it's freaking tough. With centralized clearinghouses, centralized asset managers, centralized funds, really finance and stock market and bonds and other assets, they're all pretty centralized markets. They're old markets, right? So it makes sense. But I feel like where you have these central entities controlling everything, it hurts some of the average investors. Now most of the brokers we go through a lot of brokers in the book, in the chapter on brokers, and they're all pretty cool. They're all minimum, or at least some of them are no account minimum, stuff like that. But a lot of them, right, you just have these really crazy high costs to trade, these fundamental barriers to entry, where it's you got to pay $5 to open a position and $5 to sell your stock once you're done with it, right? So, and it just costs nothing to do that. But the only reason there really is a cost of any significance, in pennies, right, to do that, is because of how central clearinghouses work, to the extent of central exchanges where you have to pay to do it, the transaction goes through, and then you get a markup on your broker side, which is just bogus, right? And there's really good brokers out there that are trying to work in centralized markets to lower costs, but it's not creating that real fundamental shift in asset management where you've got a network of decentralized nodes, and asset management is streamlined because you can have independent decentralized money managers, to the extent that trust is built independently on a blockchain network instead of in a centralized manner, right, where it's go to the institution has the power, and that power comes across in the sense of you're paying fees for your fund, you're paying fees for your money manager, you're paying fees for your investments just to trade, and it just builds up and it's crazy, right? So you're taking money that would have been in your future, right? This is your assets. These are your assets. This is your financial future. You're taking that money and it just goes to these institutions, these banks, these regulators, these stock exchanges. And I think that's kind of bogus, because it takes money, high fees, whatever, high trading costs, especially with funds, right? There's money coming out of investors' account every single day that goes to paying the rent for JP Morgan, or that goes to paying for the giant skyscraper for Wells Fargo, or for TD, or for Schwab, or Vanguard, right? These guys have fundamental costs that are being passed on to the everyday investor, and I think it just sucks because there's more efficient ways to do it, right, with the internet and blockchain technologies, to the extent that you're going to radically decrease the cost of maintaining a financial system. And with that comes a new era of management where you don't have to pay so much for whoever it is to do whatever it is you want to do, right? You can just get it done on a peer-to-peer basis with minimal fees using a consensus and algorithm network, and use that sort of technology to grow towards a better future where you can have your assets grow for you using the strategies we talk about, right? Like, I swear there's a page in here, it's got a chart, and it's just straight up because, it's not like there's ups and downs, right, for sure. It's like, investments, of course, right? But the point is giving everyone the best playing field to work on, to grow their wealth. So hopefully that comes in the future. That's something I see a lot of myself work on it a lot. So that's the real goal. But for sure, guys, I'm telling you, this book, this is how you make money. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. It's killer. I love the side of it. I love the front of it. I love the back of it. There's been a lot of work into this, and I really do hope that it has sort of like the really big impact I want it to have, to the extent that it just abolishes that educational barrier to entry into finance, and lets everyone build real savings and retirements. That's the freaking goal. Just live a good life and kill it. It complements whatever you are doing, like 9 to noon. Guys, you're freaking love it. Thank you. Have a good one.